I didn't have any thought or aspiration to write for children at all. Not at all. I've never set out to do that. I consider myself an adult writer. But 3 or 4 years ago, I was given a talk at a bookshop up in Leeds in the north of England. And a lady came up to me afterwards and she had a copy of the appeal and she wanted me to sign it. And she said her 10-year-old son, who was a reluctant reader, he never picked up a book, had got hold of it. And he'd spotted that there were speech bubbles in it of between the lawyers of, people talking on text. And that had attracted his eye. And he'd read the whole book, just reading those speech bubbles. Now she was thrilled because he'd read a book, he'd engaged with characters, he'd followed a story for the first time ever. And she asked me had I ever thought about adopting this style for children because it would appeal to children otherwise who would otherwise be put off by big chunks of text. And I hadn't, but she'd put the idea in my head. So fast forward 3 or 4 years, and I came up with a box full of murders. Now we're with two young siblings, Luke and Ava, in that book, and they text each other, and that they're forced to live separately. Their mum and dad are divorcing, and Luke is living with dad, Ava's living with mum, not very far away. But they've decided to live with respective parents, and because they're being very good about this, awful life change, their parents have bought them smartphones that they can keep in touch with each other after school and at weekends. Um, Now, on the day of the move, Luke is up in the loft with Dad, and he spots a mysterious box, and it says, "Do not open, top secret." So he takes it down to his bedroom, opens it, and discovers a stack of documents that relate to a murder that took place at a summer camp in 1983. And with all of these documents, he photographs them all, sends them to Ava, and between them, although they have to live separately, they communicate together and bond over this murder case that they solve. Because of course, it's not very long before they realise this murder case was not fully solved and that the danger is still close at hand. And that's my children's murder mystery. And it's designed exactly as that lady spoke about. It's the text messages and documents in between. And if someone or a youngster is a reluctant reader, they can just read the text messages and they'll follow that story. Hopefully they'll be, encouraged to read the other bits. But if they're not, that's fine. They'll follow the story, engage with characters, and they'll read a book. And the feedback has been awesome. I mean, a lot of youngsters are reading it, keen readers and reluctant readers, and a lot of young boys who are not traditionally big readers are reading it and enjoying it, and that's just wonderful. It was a real labour of love, I think, at first, because it took me a long time to adapt my style for children. But when I got there, it was so rewarding, wonderful, great experience. This is aimed at age sort of 8 to 13, 8 to 12, 13. Um, so you can have murder. I mean, there's a whole genre of children's murder mysteries. I mean, there are certain rules that you follow. This murder happened a long time ago. So that kind of puts a distance between it for the children who are reading about children in the present day, which is always good. So there are certain things, it's not particularly graphic. And there's a lot of fun and light-hearted stuff in between. Because for children, as for adults, reading crime fiction is an escape. It's a fantasy that helps us deal with the real world. And that's the case for children as well as for adults. Children see the news. They're plugged into the internet. They see all sorts of things. And crime fiction for children helps them make sense of it and feel better. It's a safe space to experience and to work through any fear they may have. So yeah, there's murder, but at that age they're engaging with life generally, and life is scary.